welcome back to our very bookish channel. You probably know this by now, but my name's Amanda. I run the channel with my friend Jen, and today is so exciting. I love talking about new releases. So today we're going to be talking about all the books that we are anticipating being released in March and April.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for our most anticipated. This time we're doing March and April. I think it's probably my favorite videos to do because I love looking to see what's coming out, and I tend to go a little crazy when it comes to picking books that are coming out that I want to talk about. I try to narrow it down because realistically, I know I'm not going to be able to get to all of these books. So I try my best to whittle down what I think I really want to read. And it's just hard sometimes. Because I know I can also change my mind at some point. So if there's even an inkling of, well, I might actually want to read that, then I tend to want to put that on the list. All right, I just want to dive right in because I do have a pretty long list. I feel like it's about the same that I normally do, but I just know when I have done those previous videos and the amount that I'm putting in them, I don't tend to get to a lot of those books. But it's also fun to just go over. I'm sure you guys are going to learn about some books maybe you didn't know and books that you're also anticipating. There were ones, obviously there's a ton of books coming out. Can't go over everything. And I'm sure Amanda's gonna go over a lot of fantasy books, and I tend to gravitate more towards the thriller and mystery books. I have one fantasy on the list, and I'm not sure it's one that Amanda's gonna talk about. She probably won't because it's not even technically March or April. I'm cheating a little bit because it's February 27th when this one comes out, and it's called Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle Jensen. And it's gonna be the first book in the saga of the Unfated. And it's a shield maiden blessed by the gods, battles to unite a nation under a power-hungry king, while also fighting her growing desire for the king's son. Freya, bound by an unwanted marriage, dreams of becoming a warrior. Freya is forced to reveal her deepest secret. She possesses a drop of goddess's blood, which makes her a shield maiden with magic capable of repelling any attack. It was foretold such a magic would unite the fractured nation of Skaland, probably, beneath the one who controls the shield maiden's fate. So I don't read a lot of fantasy, as you guys know. I loved Fourth Wing. There's some fantasy that I'm sure I will love, but this one drew my interest, and I really like the cover, as you can see. And I believe it's gonna also have the sprayed edges on it, which I think looks really pretty. I thought I might try this one, but it's one I want to take a closer look at once it's out. So maybe Amanda wants to read it too, and maybe we can even do a vlog on it, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure I'm gonna be reading that one. Then I go into March 1st. It's the only one listed for March 1st, and it's called A Friend in the Dark. And I've seen this one a couple times, and both times I came upon it, I felt I really wanted to read it. It seems right up my alley, and it's by Samantha Bailey. It's about Eden Miller going through a rough time, a divorce, and her daughter barely talks to her. She reflects on a relationship she had before her husband and decides to reach out, and they begin a relationship online. I guess like long distance. I don't know if they live near each other, but she starts a relationship with him online. She soon begins getting worried since he seems to know too much about her life, and she realizes her and her family are in danger. So that one sounded really interesting, and it's getting a lot of buzz online. So I thought that might be one that definitely gets on my TBR pile.
So starting off strong, on March 5th, I've got two releases that I want to talk about. The first release is The New Couple in 5B by Lisa Unger. And I was able to get a copy on NetGalley. Look. So I'm really excited. I'm gonna try to read this book and post a full ARC review on this book before it comes out. So right now I've got 2 books in front of this one that I'm reading for vlogs that we are posting this month, in the month of February. But after I get done reading those books, I'm gonna jump into this one and try to get it done quickly. I don't anticipate it taking too long. Typically thrillers are pretty fast reads. I just compulsively read thrillers. Like if they're good and they keep you interested and the little chapters end on cliffhangers, then I can read the books quickly, and I'm hoping that I can get this read and get a full ARC review out for you guys on this book before the release date. But in the meantime, I'm going to tell you guys what this book's about. So in this book, you're following Rosie and Chad, and Rosie and Chad are living in New York City. They are barely scraping by. I mean, they're eating bologna sandwiches and ramen noodles. They are, you know, financially stressed out. So while they're scraping by, unfortunately, Chad's uncle passes away. But fortunately, he leaves them his luxury apartment in a very upscale neighborhood in New York City. And this apartment is beautiful. It has a doorman. It has pools and spas. It has an in-home gym. It has floor-to-ceiling windows. It has stunning city views. They just are so happy that they get to move up out of the small shoebox apartment that they were slumming in to this nice, beautiful apartment with all the amenities. So once they move in, they notice the tenants are a little bit weird, okay? They're a little strange, but they seem nice enough. They welcome them into the building, so they really don't think anything of it. And then one day, Rosie gets a little suspicious. She notices a few things, like there are cameras everywhere and watching all the time. And the doorman, the really nice doorman downstairs, never leaves. He's always there around the clock. Like, doesn't this guy have to sleep sometimes? Like, he's got to eat, go to the bathroom, sleep. I mean, does he have his own home? Doesn't he go home sometimes? Doesn't he need a break? But no, he's always there. And then she finds out that there have been some very suspicious violent crimes that have happened in this building. Rosie says, you know what, we're just gonna stay. So what, okay? That's a little weird, but you know what, we're just gonna deal with it. But then the plot gets real thick when she finds out that one of these tenants in this building ends up dead. And Rosie decides, I'm getting to the bottom of this. And that's where the thriller book picks up, takes off.
The next one is technically horror, and by an author I haven't yet tried. I have seen several times for several different books, and it's called Murder Road by Simone St. James. And it comes out March 5th. I actually have a few from March 5th. And this one's about a young couple finding themselves haunted by a string of gruesome murders committed along an old deserted road. A lone hitchhiker along a deserted road, they pick up who dies, and then they become suspects in this guy's death. And it sounded like it was in this little tiny town, and they've been plagued by murders along that road. And I guess the town thinks that these two committed all those murders. So I don't know if this one will be the one that I try by Simone St. James, but I feel like she's someone I've been wanting to try. I hear a lot of good things about her books, and I do like a horror book now and again. So I do want to try something by her, maybe this one, who knows.
So my next most anticipated book coming out on March 5th is Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice by Elle Cosamato. I love this series. I have heard some people criticize this series for, you know, their own personal reasons or whatever, and that's fine. Not everyone has to like every book that I like, even though you should. But this book is about Finley Donovan. She is a mother of 2 toddlers. She gets divorced from her husband because he's been cheating on her. She's a struggling writer. She's trying real hard to get by. And in the first book, she is meeting with her publicist, and I think they're meeting at like a Panera or some kind of like coffee shop, and she's describing a book that she's working on writing, and a woman in the table next to her overhears their conversation, and she assumes that Finley Donovan is a killer for hire, so like an assassin, a hitman, whatever you want to say, and she decides that she's going to pay Finley to kill her husband. So Finley tries to explain, I'm not a hitman. I was just talking to my publicist. I'm writing a book. But this woman is not taking no for an answer. And she gives Finley Donovan like a crazy amount of money, like $100,000, like right off the rip to kill her husband. So Finley's like, crap, what am I going to do? And the story just goes from there. It's just hilarious. She has a nanny slash accountant slash partner in crime named Vero, who their banter is so funny. And they just go on these adventures where they, not meaning to, get in these terrible situations with like the mafia and criminals. And then on top of that, Finley is also dating a cop and her sister is a cop. So I don't know. It's just a wild ride. It's just really fun. This fourth installment coming out, her and Vero are taking a girls trip to Atlantic City, which is code for trying to negotiate with a crime boss and rescue Vero's childhood crush that I guess is in trouble. But I mean, these little, adventures that they go on, getting into trouble, getting out of trouble, it's just really funny, and they're great reads. If you haven't started the series and you need a light, funny mystery read, then highly recommended.
The next one I'm very excited about because it's by one of my favorite authors, Lisa Unger. And we did just read Christmas Presents, and now she has a new book coming out on March 5th. It's called The New Couple in 5B, and I've been trying to win an arc of this, and I have not been successful. It's about a couple inheriting an apartment with a spine-tingling past. The luxury apartment is at a historic Windermere and has pre-war elegance, a doorman, and New York charm. There's also dark history, and the couple starts to get suspicious of the tenants, and they're trying to figure out what happens because a neighbor turns up dead. So with Lisa Unger, she's one of those authors. I just saw a TikTok where it said, what are the authors that you will just pick up and read and don't even worry about what it's about? And I feel like Lisa Unger is that for me. I think Frida McFadden is another one for me. So for this one, it is going to be 100% read. I will be picking it up and reading it when it comes out for sure. Another one that I keep seeing on the thriller Facebook groups and on Instagram is called Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. And it also comes out March 5th. And the description says, what if you thought you murdered your best friend? And what if everyone else thought so too? Lucy is found with her best friend's blood on her, and years later a true crime podcast called Listen for the Lie has decided to investigate what happened. So it sounds like she didn't get convicted of the murder. They must not have been able to figure out what happened, and maybe she was just suspected. And it also said she couldn't remember details from that night. So I thought that one was really interesting, and I think there's another one on my list. I feel like a common plot point anymore is about podcasts and true crime podcasts and investigating through a podcast, or it's in the plot line somewhere. I know I just read that Lisa Jewell one over Christmas that had a podcast involved, and I know there's another book on my list that also has a podcast involved, and I think even the Lisa Unger Christmas Presents had a podcast involved. And I know podcasts are very popular, but it seems to be popping up again and again and again. I have a feeling I'm going to end up getting, like, it's going to be an overused plot device that I end up getting sick of. But for now, that one sounded really interesting.
The next book that I want to talk about is coming out on March 12th, and it is Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, I have a lot to say about this series. I don't want to spoil anything and say anything about the book, but this series as a whole, I am doing a full arc review for this book. It's going to be posted if it's not posted already. And if you guys read Empire of the Vampire, then check out that arc review. If you have not read the series and you're interested in more information about it, like I said, I have a lot of things to say. And I just want to say this arc copy is not the final cover. It's going to look like this. So I'm sorry, this paper and this book have seen better days, but y'all, I have been carrying this book around with me for like a month, trying to finish reading it. I've had to pause my reading on it because I've had to read other books in between. It is a kind of a lengthy book, but full thoughts will be in the arc review of this book on the
Interesting. The next one, I was on the fence because it really drew my interest at first, and when I was trying to whittle down some of the ones I've thought, okay, am I really going to read this? I was not completely sure for this one. It's called Lilith by Eric Rickstad, and it comes out March 19th. And the description says, after her son, Lyndon, suffers traumatic injuries in a school shooting, single mom Elizabeth grows enraged, and then she does her own crazy violence on her own. And and whatever she does, it was very vague as to what she does, which I don't need to know beforehand, and sometimes I don't like to know too much about books. But then she posts the video herself, it sounds like, and she goes by a different name, and the name she goes by is Lilith. And there's a lot of startling twists that take place and actions. So her doing this causes a lot of repercussions, and she fights to remain hidden so that she's protecting her son further, because people get enraged by what she does. So it sounded really interesting concept, like almost like vigilante, but I don't know what the violence is that she does, so I don't know if she's going, I don't know. It sounded interesting, but it could also be, it also has the potential, I feel like, to be bad. So I don't know. I feel like that's one of the books that I want to pick up and just take another look at and see if I really think I want to read that one.
So coming out on March 19th is a book called The Mystery Writer by Solari Gentile. And I think I'm saying that right. I don't know. I'm terrible with names. So if I'm saying it wrong, I'm sorry. But this is a literary thriller, and usually I'm not into literary books. I just find them kind of boring. I'm sorry. It's my personal preference, and I know there's some really good literary books. I have read some really good literary books, but it's not typically a genre that I am excited to read. But this is a literary thriller, so I'm a little interested to see what a literary thriller reads like, and this book sounds pretty interesting. So I just thought, why not? Why not? I'm gonna try to read this book. There's a woman named Theo, and Theo is a college student. She has been put on the fast lane to success. She is on the college path. She is studying to be an attorney, and then all of a sudden she just decides to drop out and she wants to become a writer. Obviously her family is probably not very happy about that. They're like, what are you thinking? What are you doing? You are going to be an attorney. You're going to law school. Like, why? What are you doing? But Leo presses on, and she says, no. My passion is writing, and I'm going to work on this book that I want to write. Then one day her mentor and idol, who is a very successful writer, is murdered. So Theo is upset. Theo is mad. Theo wants justice. She wants this murderer caught and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. The only problem is the police start to suspect Theo's brother. So I'm thinking Theo is like, okay, I got to get to the bottom of this and find out what happened. And this murder mystery unfolds. So it sounded interesting to me. I think I'm going to give a literary thriller a try and see what happens.
Next one is a horror book, and it's called A Voice Calling by Christopher Barzak, but on March 19th. And it's about a house called Button House, and it's haunted and has consumed all who approach. Twin brothers, a child bride, an innocent baby, and more. Rose can hear the house and the pleas of the ghosts, and she attempts to figure out the mystery of Button House. And it sounded interesting. It sounded very, I feel like that's almost another common trope is, someone going and investigating a known murder house or a known haunted house and what happens after that. So I thought I would try that one too. I haven't read anything by Christopher Barzak. He has several other horror books, I think also fiction. But I thought that sounded interesting. So that might end up being something that pulls me in once I pick it up and take a closer look at it. The next one's also on March 19th, and it's called Has Anyone Seen Charlotte Salter? And this one sounded really interesting. It almost sounded like a literary thriller. And this one is about a wife that disappears in 1990, right before Christmas. It's at a party, and it's hours before anyone notices that she's missing. A neighbor, Duncan, is found floating in the river, and then Charlotte's coat is found on the riverbank. and conclusions are made and the truth isn't really known. So there's a lot of assumptions made that those two were somehow involved together and it was like a murder-suicide or something. And I don't know what evidence they have, but 30 years later, here it comes, the other podcast plot point. 30 years later, a podcast decides to investigate, and a detective, Maud O'Connor, is determined to also find the truth. So that one sounded really interesting. I haven't read Nikki French yet, and I know she has several thrillers out. I know people have mentioned liking her books, so I thought that might be a perfect one to try with her because the plot really spoke to me. I thought it would be interesting to see what happened. I like sometimes the thrillers that you don't necessarily start the book knowing what happened. You just know parts of what people have talked about, and then the book is basically investigating, and then you find out what really happened. So we'll see. Maybe I'll like this one. The next one caught me, but then I hesitated because I feel like I got bamboozled. People like to say things are for fans of Silent Patient or fans of Gone Girl or those authors. And this one went a step further and even said Hitchcock inspired. But I feel like people throw those around just to get your attention and to make you read it. And I feel like that's so disingenuous that people just need to describe their books realistically. And I know a lot of it is subjective. I don't find, like the book recently, Anna O was saying it was for the same kind of fan, and I really didn't enjoy it. So it makes me leery whenever they're throwing the fans of Silent Patient and Gone Girl around. This one has the Hitchcock inspired, as I said, a la Strangers on a Train, because the plot is, I don't know if I said the name of it. I don't think I said even the name of this book. It's called Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh. And it is coming out on March 19th. The Goodreads rating right now is very high, which also caught my eye, but sometimes those ratings are high before a book comes out because either fans of that author go on there and start giving 5-star reviews because they're anticipating the book, which I'm not a fan of them doing because I want to know what really the rating of that book is. So maybe there are arcs out there and people are giving this high ratings. I don't know. You have to take that with a grain of salt as well. And this one is about two ordinary women who made a dangerous pact to take revenge for each other after being pushed to the brink. It doesn't say how they know each other. I don't know if they met each other on a train like Hitchcock, but it's very Strangers on a Train, and that made me intrigued, especially since it's two women. So I have a feeling I'm gonna want to read that one. I think a lot of these I have entered for arcs, and there's only 2 arcs I have on this whole list and I haven't gotten to them yet. So I know last time I had a bunch, but given I don't always have time to read them, I don't necessarily, it always makes me feel bad if I'm not reading them, because I know Amanda does a lot of arc reviews and she definitely tries to do them for every single arc she gets. And I love getting arcs, and I really want to try and do more arcs. And one of the books on this list, I already did an arc review for. And then I have another one that I just literally got yesterday. So I will be doing an arc review, I promise.
So the next book on my most anticipated is coming out on March 26th, and it's called Everyone is Watching by Heather Gundenkopf. Again, I said I'm really bad with names, but we're gonna just go with that. This book is being described as a Big Brother meets Clue, but I have been terribly burned by some of these descriptions lately. In fact, some of these descriptions are not at all the same books I read. In fact, I'm starting to feel like I might be able to sue for false advertisement on some of these. Like when they say, like, you know, they advertise this book as this meets this and that, and they're using all these like famous books or movies or TV shows that like have blown up. I'm kind of like, at this point, I'm kind of hesitant to believe them. Anyways, in this story, there are 5 people that are competing in a reality TV show to win $5 million. And part of this competition is they have to live in a secluded California mansion, and they cannot leave this property at all until after a winner is named. So it sounds like a typical reality TV show, right? Well, things start getting a little crazy because at least one of the contestants are not who they say they are. Secrets get out. People not wanting secrets to get out get mad, tensions rise, things might get violent, and the game does not end until everyone knows exactly who these people are. So this author intrigues me. I read a book by her called The Overnight Guest, and I remember it being pretty good. I think I might have given it 3 stars on Goodreads, but again, to me, 3 stars is a good, okay book. I will give the author another chance or want to read more of their books. And I am honestly, genuinely kind of intrigued about books that take place on like reality TV show settings or bloggers or podcasts. Like, it's kind of a new trend in books, and I've really enjoyed the books that I've read so far regarding that kind of setting and type of environment. So I am looking forward to this one.
So the next one is my last one for March, and it's March 26th. Everyone is Watching by Heather Gudenkoff. I hope I'm saying that right. It has a 4.08 Goodreads rating, which anything 4 and over tends to definitely get my interest. I don't dismiss books that are under that. I'm more likely to check it out if it's over 4 stars. So this one is a very interesting concept. It's different than any other books on my list right now. And it's about 5 contestants have been chosen to compete for $10 million on the game show, One Lucky Winner. The catch, none of them knows what or who to expect, and it will be live streamed all over the world, completely secluded in an estate in Northern California with strict instructions not to leave the property and 0 contact with the outside world. The competitors start to feel a little too isolated. And she also wrote The Overnight Guest, and I did enjoy that book. So this one sounded intriguing and different. And I always like having something different to spice up the TBR, to make things a little, not as monotonous with the psychological thrillers. I do tend to genre skip whenever that happens, just to shake it up.
Hey guys, I am jumping in here really quick. This is actually me like maybe 10 minutes in the future from what you're watching right now, but I just filmed my whole anticipated releases video and I left out a book. I want to keep talking about these in chronological order, so I have a release for April 2nd that I want to throw in, and it is a book that I received an art copy of, and that is Draw Down the Moon by PC Cast and Kristen Cast, and I'm really excited for the release of this book. I hope to be able to read it. Y'all know I always have the best of intentions of reading my ARCs and doing ARC reviews before the books come out, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way. But this book is about Ren, and Ren is just a normal 18-year-old teenager, but her parents are magical, and she seemingly did not inherit her parents' magical abilities, but on her 18th birthday she started glowing. And they realize that she actually does have some magical abilities. So she goes to this magical school where she learns about these, and it's supposed to be a kind of cutthroat environment. She has to be put through some trials, and she's going with a childhood friend of hers named Lee, and I believe that there's like a little romance thing going on between the two of them. It feels a little bit like a Harry Potter-ish, like these magical kids going to a magical school, but I am really excited to read it. I don't really get tired of the tropes of magical schools or the tropes of you have to go through some kind of brutal trial. Like, I never, in fantasy and thrillers and horror and anything, I never get tired of those tropes. So I'm really excited to read this, and I will let you guys know when I get it read what I think.
The next 2 are starting off April. So I have one for April 2nd, but the next 2 books I just happened to see before I recorded this, so I added them to the pile. I had whittled down my list, and then 2 more caught my interest. So this one is called Begin Again by Helly Acton, and it only had a 3.94 Goodreads rating, but it sounded very fun. It reminded me of the Sophie Cousins books that I read recently. So like a lighter fiction. It almost is like a mixed mix of some romance as well. And this one says it's a fun novel of what ifs and mischances and new beginnings. What if you got to see what would result if you had made different choices in your life? After dying, I didn't put who the main character is. I just put she. So I'm not sure who the character's name is, but she is able to see her life's possibilities like a choose your own adventure come to life. Well, I say come to life, but they say that she dies and then gets to see everything that she could have done if she had made different choices along the way. And that just sounded just interesting. And it said it was a fun novel. And I know I often need breaks from the crazy horror or psychological thrillers I'm reading. So I thought that would be good to put on my list, and I would be able to have a fun novel down the road.
So the first book in April that I want to talk about is probably my most anticipated book of April. I am 100% reading this book. I am so excited for it to come out, and it's The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. Now, I love this author. I've read Ninth House and I've read Six of Crows by her, and this year I am getting to Hellbent. It's up here on the shelf, but I'm getting to Hellbent, and I'm gonna read the Shadow and Bone trilogy, reread Six of Crows, and then move on to Crooked Kingdom. So I'm hoping to get all caught up with her works. I believe those are the only books she has out. She has the Ninth House series, the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and the Six of Crows duology, and then this book coming out. And I was so happy because I got approved for a advanced reader edition. It's an ebook, so I have to read it on my tablet, and I'm going to be reading it as soon as I can, posting an ARC review on that one. Here's a little bit of the synopsis. So this book is set during the Spanish Golden Age, and you're following Lucia. And Lucia starts out as a maid for a wealthy to-do family, and she's just going along doing her maid duties, but using a little bit of magic to help her out. Okay, just a little bit of magic to make her task a little more bearable, a little bit easier. I mean, who wouldn't? If you could do magic to do your house chores, wouldn't you do it? I would so be like waving my wand at the kitchen sink, like, clean those dishes. Bam, done. Vacuum my den. So she's in there, you know, just doing her thing. Then one day, the mistress of the house discovers her secret. She finds her using magic. And of course, what would any rich, manipulative, evil housewife do in that situation? She says, you know what? You're going to use your magic to help me out, and we're going to raise my family's social status. She starts forcing Lucia to start using her magic to help out the family. So while she's being forced to use her magic to help out this family and raise this family's social status, her magic is discovered by a secretary to the king. And this secretary to the king is having a hard time. He has come under a lot of pressure. He has like a failed voyage or something where he's disappointed the king, and he really, really needs to get back in the king's good graces. So he decides, you know what? I'm taking you and you're helping me. You're using your magic to help me. So Lucia gets put into this world of brutal politics and people manipulating each other, and she's just being used and passed around. She's not happy. So she enlists the help of a guy named Gillian. And Gillian has his own problems and his own deadly secrets. So I am just really, really excited to find out where this novel goes. And, you know, like I said, I love Leigh Bardugo. I love her writing. I love her subtleness of the darkness of her books. So really excited to read that one. The next book coming out on April 9th is also a book that I'm excited for, and I spoke in my bookish resolutions videos that I want to read a little bit outside of my typical genres. I'm focusing on sci-fi and maybe a little bit of true crime. So this is a sci-fi book coming out called Ghost Station by S.A. Barnes. Now this author is very well known for their book called Dead Silence. This book is being described as a space horror. So, y'all know I love my horror books, and I said, you know what, when I heard sci-fi horror, I thought, oh yes, and the author's name, obviously I recognize because Dead Silence was huge. So in this book, you're following a psychologist named Ophelia Bray, and Ophelia has dedicated her whole adult life, her career in psychology, to researching something called ERS, and we have no idea what ERS is. It just says ERS on the back of blurb of the books. I have no idea what this is, but does say the last case of ERS resulted in 29 gruesome murders. So I'm thinking it's a virus that people catch that make them go crazy and murder people. I mean, that is a trope that I've seen like in a few movies and heard of in some other books. So I'm thinking that might be what ERS is. So in her quest to do research and find all this information out about ERS, she joins a space crew that is exploring a new planet. And well, this is a horror book, so I mean, someone has to die. And that's exactly what happens. A member of the space crew that she's a part of dies, and things get crazy. And you're in space, and I don't know anything else.
The next one is April 9th, A Better World by Sarah Langan. She has another one that they were giving praise in where I saw this advertised. I believe it was Shelf Awareness. I should be writing where I'm seeing these books. So this one is a cunning, out-of-the-box satirical thriller about a family's odyssey into an exclusive enclave for the wealthy that might not be as ideal as it seems. And I know this concept has been done, but I haven't read it yet, where the world outside is falling apart, and so they build like a new society for people, especially the wealthy, to go and live at. There was one book that I read last year that kind of was in this concept, but it was very food focused, and I'm forgetting the title of it. But I feel like there's a lot of end of world and how are we dealing with it novels out there. It almost seems science fiction-esque, but this one seems to be taking more of a literary thriller approach to the concept. So I put that on my list. I was intrigued by it. I did enter an ARC, so it might have been Goodreads that I got an email about, because I remember entering an ARC contest for that. Not that those, I feel like I don't win those that often. Sometimes though, I get ARCs in the mail and it doesn't say, I think the Goodreads ones tell you, either you get emailed or there's a slip of paper in the package. And sometimes publishers, I think they retain that information when you enter, and they will send you ARCs, because I think that's how I got the next one. The one I got in the mail is called The Vacancy in Room 10 by Serafina Nova Glass. And I have read her before. She wrote On a Quiet Street, and I really liked that one. I thought it was really well done, psychological thriller. I would say it borders onto like a literary thriller, because it really has drawn out characters, and it doesn't necessarily rely on twisty, jump scares. So this one is about when Anna's husband calls with a terrible guilty confession. She can't believe what she hears, but her confusion turns to horror when police find his body washed up on the banks of the Rio Grande. So Anna then checks into a motel her husband was staying in to try and understand what happened. She learns a lot that she didn't know and wonders if she ever really knew him. The hotel manager, I guess, is figuring prominently in this book, and I think you see it from those two perspectives. And it says the hotel manager seems determined to keep Anna in the dark, and mysterious letters show up at the room that Anna is staying in, and she realizes that she is in danger, and the truth may not be as important as her life. So I remember the other book that she wrote, On a Quiet Street, I remember it having good twist at the end. So I was really happy to get this, and I do plan on doing an ARC review for this, because I am very grateful that I got the ARC, and I don't want to waste the opportunity, so that I can read it and then let you guys know how good it is. So I plan on doing that one very soon.
The next book on my most anticipated book is Darling Girls by Sally Hempworth. Jen has already received an ARC copy of this book and done a full review on it. So if you want to know more about Jen's thoughts on this book before it comes out, then just click the link up here or in the description below, and you can watch her ARC review video. The ARC review videos, you guys, are only like 5 to 10 minutes long, so they're not very long. They only talk about the one book real quick. So it's a really good way for you to get information about new or upcoming releases of books that we were able to get copies of and have read.
And then the next one, I already had an ARC review that I did, and I love Sally Hempworth so much, and I very much enjoyed this one. I had given it 4 stars, and I believe I was very close. I remember debating. It was between 4 and 5 stars. And this one, she just has, I call it a literary thriller, and I feel like she has progressed through like fiction and literary thriller up to this one is much more twisty and thriller-esque, and I very much loved it. It's about 3 foster girls, and you begin the story when they are adults, and you see the 3 sisters, the 3 foster girls sister relationship. They're not technically sisters, but they treat each other like sisters. And I love the relationship between the 3 of them. They're very different, and their personalities really show through with how she writes. And the house that they had grew up in the foster house, the house was demolished and they found bones underneath. So they're doing an investigation. They pull the girls in terms of some questioning about their experiences at that house. And you find out how they grew up with this foster mother and the horrors that they ended up experiencing. And it very much is like this tension building. You find out all this information and you just get more and more tense, and it builds up to the end. And I felt like she did a really good job of it. Loved reading this, and I would highly recommend it, especially if you love literary thrillers or thrillers. Sally Hepworth, definitely one of my favorite authors. So I do have an ARC review that Amanda can put in a link for that one, but it comes out April 23rd. I don't even know if I said the title of that one. I mean, you guys can see, but it's Darling Girls. Sorry.
So this book is coming out April 23rd, and it's called Dragon Rider by Tarin Matharu. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so bad with names. But we're going to go with that. I should just stop trying to do the names. I should just say, yeah, this name, this guy, Tarin, and I'm not going to pronounce that. This is obviously a fantasy novel with dragons. So you're following Jay. I think he's the male main character, and he's just a regular guy. He is a hostage stuck in the castle because his father actually led a rebellion that failed, and his father was captured and executed, and they keep him prisoner in this castle kind of as a slave to the royal family. And the prince of this royal family is betrothed to a princess of a neighboring kingdom, and she comes to visit the prince, and she brings along with her all these dragons, like a horde of dragons come following this princess. And they don't know too much about dragons. They don't really know how to tame them. They don't really know how to connect with them. But they're trying to figure that out, and bringing the dragons into this city with the castle, it creates some stir. It creates some chaos. And amongst this chaos, Jay sees an opportunity to escape. And while he's escaping, he runs into a little hatchling dragon that he takes and escapes with him. And he starts thinking of a way for him to get some revenge on the royal family. So I'm really excited, super excited about this book. Y'all know I love fantasy. There's been a lot of good dragon books coming out lately. You know, Fourth Wing kind of, bolstered the popularity of dragons. And really, even before Fourth Wing, Game of Thrones really bolstered popularity with dragons. But it just seems that recently, Fourth Wing has just blown it out of the water, and there's all these good books coming about dragons, and who can get enough dragons? Not me. I could read books that have dragons in them all day long. I could probably read books about dragons from now till the end of the year and still not be tired of dragons. So excited for this book. Another arc that I need to read. It is a pretty thick book. It's a chunker. But I am just so excited for all these new books coming out, and so lucky to get some of these arcs. I can't wait to read them and let you guys know what I think.
I got two more. I laughed when I put down the next one, and it's by Emily Henry, called Funny Story, and it's April 23rd. It already has a really huge rating, 4.54 on Goodreads. I think mostly because she has a lot of fans. I am actually a fan of Emily Henry. I feel like I read one Emily Henry a year, and that's why I was laughing. She has one a year, and every time it's like the main romance, because she is in romance, but I feel like that's my romance book that I read every year. I do read other books that kind of are near romance, and I know we did a spicy romance vlog last year, But when I think of romance, I think of books like this, and I feel like well, here's my one romance for the year. So this one's about Daphne, and she's newly dumped, and she ends up becoming roommates with her ex's now girlfriend's ex-fiance. Mainly avoid each other until one day, while drowning their sorrows, they come up with a plan to pretend they are more than roommates and post that online. But it's just for show, right? So they're gonna end up together. They're just trying to make their exes jealous, and in the meantime, they're gonna end up in love. So that one sounded cute, and I love how she writes, so I know I'll be picking that one up.
And the final book that is releasing in April, I'm going to talk about, comes out on April 30th, and it's called Powerful by Lauren Roberts. And I anticipate this being a big book. It's just a short novella, but everyone has loved Powerless. I just got done reading Powerless. I'm going to continue on with the trilogy. This novella is coming out in April, and then the full second book of the series is coming out later this year. And so if you all have read Powerless and love it, you need to put this little novella on your radar. Everyone that has read and enjoyed Powerless is going to just run right out and flock to this book.
The last one, I'm surprised I haven't read anything by Geneva Rose. She is known for a couple books now, but the main one that she is known for, I'm forgetting the name of it. I know it's like Marriage Pact or something like that. I'll put it on the screen and Amanda can give you a picture. I don't remember right now. I just know that it has marriage in the title. And it is a psychological thriller. She's very social media famous because she's interactive and she's hilarious. I love watching her social media, and I haven't even read a book from her. But I think she ended up making a lot of TikToks because there was someone named Steve that wrote her fan letters. Well, I say fan letters, but he actually wrote her a bunch of emails saying that she should not be writing books because she writes so horrible. And she ended up making a series of like TikToks and stories on Instagram. And she was just hilarious, depicting the whole situation. And her husband is with her a lot. She does a lot of signings where she has the crowd of her fans doing videos with her. So she seems like a lot of fun. And she has a new one coming out on April 30th. I'm really hoping. I know I entered, I think, 2 contests now for her arc. And it's called Home is Where the Bodies Are. It has a really cool cover, as you can see. And it's about 3 siblings, but their mother passes and they reunite to sort out her estate. Beth is the oldest and she stayed at home until the end. Nicole is the middle child and she's a drug addict. And Michael, the youngest, lives out of state and hasn't been home in a while. The siblings stumble upon a collection of home videos and decide to revisit happier times. What they see seems to be a murder that their parents were covering up. And they see on the screen, I think, their father all in blood, and he's already had passed, I believe. And should they leave the past in the past or uncover further this dark secret? It seemed very interesting. I like that premise a lot. I haven't read anything like that. I think I'm going to start with that one and not the one she's known for. And she had a second one too, and again, I can't remember that one either. I'm gonna have to put that one on the screen and Amanda will show the title. I feel, for whatever reason, I haven't picked her up and I don't even know why. I just have had other things that have gotten my interest, but this one really intrigued me. I think I'm finally going to pick her up. And she's actually going on a book tour and she's gonna be near me. And I'm really contemplating because it's so much fun, and then I can also record when I'm there, and I think it'd be cool to show. So I'm thinking of also attending one of her signings. It's not far at all, so that sounded fun. That is all of my most anticipated for March and April, and I also know I'm sure there's going to be more that pop up that I didn't even see and I'll probably want to read. It's just the way it goes. So thank you for listening to all of the books that we want to read. I would love to know the things that we haven't gone over that you would love to read, any suggestions for us that we may have missed. And until next time.